data itself is always owned by a citizen. So you as a citizen are the governor of your data, and you have always right to request to change or update the data, and also you have a means via citizen portal to monitor who's using your data.
Thank you, Margus. Really appreciate you joining Change I Am Possible, which is India's first Future Tech podcast. So Margus Magi has been the Digital Society Advisor for the President's Office of Estonia, Digital Policy Advisor for European Union Secretariat, Government Office of Estonia, and he has also been honored with 4th class order of the White Star by the President of Estonia, and is currently Smart Government Advisor at Human Dynamics, a public sector consulting firm. Welcome, Margus, on Change I Am Possible podcast. Really appreciate you giving time and being part of the show. Estonia has become the world's most advanced digital society, right? I mean, it's everywhere, and people are trying to replicate the model, what Estonia has kind of achieved. So can you run us through what was the trigger of the journey, where it all started, and what it took for Estonia to turn into a digital first nation?
Yes, so it's a really complex question, and many people have different answers to that, because if there is a good story, everyone have their own way of telling it. But I would say that the engineering mindset or innovation mindset is also quite deep-rooted into our culture. So I would start from really, really far away, and this is, I mean, it's you can see this characteristic in pretty much in every culture, I would say, because you cannot say that this culture is not innovative at all. I mean, all cultures are innovative in a sense that they are in certain circumstances, they do things differently based on the environment, based on the situation, and so on. But thanks to our culture and eagerness and understanding of how important is education, actually, we have our national university and everything. Like the education is really high, let's say, highly valued in society and has been for a really long time. So the point, what I'm trying to do is that, for example, if we are talking about engineering as a science, or engineering as a science, and also when we are talking about competition and binary code and stuff like this, then there are first implications about this already from the early 20th centuries in Estonia. I mean, they started to work on machine translation in Tartu University in 1956 already. So there have been those bright minds around, and they have been driving force of this kind of innovation throughout. And of course, in early 1990s, when the Estonia got its independence back, right? And we had a new government in place, and they were facing a range of strategical questions in front of them. And one thing was that it was kind of understood that nowadays, public authorities have so many tasks that in order to be with a proper government, you would need to hire too many people in order to have all the functions which people expect the government to deliver. Because, people go to the other countries, they see that there are this ministry, that ministry, this service, that service, and everything works seamlessly and really well abroad. And then they come back to Estonia and start asking that why we don't have this. And, people are setting the bar in the sense that what their country should be. And it was understood that because we are a really small nation, like we are only 1.3 million, that in order to have all this service set run in with traditional methods, like you have the ministry, you have the offices, you have everything, then it is going to be really challenging. And over the time, this mindset of using different kind of tools and so on emerged, and some really strategical decisions were made, which have led to this, that, for example, if we are talking about the governmental sector, then the governmental sector is really well digitalized in terms of back office systems, and also in terms of front office digitalized services. So I would say that the driver for digitalization in Estonia has been a cultural, and also the necessity. The necessity is the mother of invention. So if there is a need, one needs to figure out how to do that. Like if you need to roll the rock uphill, then you will figure it out how to do that. And this was the case also for our leaders back then, and some wise decisions were made which enabled us to leapfrog, and here we are now.
Every country prides into saying our culture is based on innovation and digital transformation, but saying those words and implementation is a different thing altogether. I mean, it's very plain to see why Estonia has leapfrogged and has become almost like a role model. COVID-19 has kind of accelerated the digital conversation forward, and made people realize the importance of digitization. So, can you please run us through some of the services, initiatives of Estonia, your e-residency program, your various services, please?
Yeah, I mean, what is important to emphasize here and is that nothing happens over the night. Like in a sense that everything takes time. Everything is gradual, in a sense that Estonia has been developing also its e-government for quite a long time. Like, I mean, there were some really pivotal decisions done in early 2000s, but even before that, there were like, I mean, if I remember correctly, we had the first, let's say, computerized commercial registry version running in a back office, like around already in 95 or 6 or something like this. So, and before that, the computers were used in the statistics office and so on. So all this, like, this is where I come in with my historical talk, that all this kind of lays ground to something. But it also lays ground to the legacy. And as you were pointing out really rightfully, that if there is already something and it's working, then by the engineer's definition, if it's working, don't touch it. This also goes for the systems in the sense of business processes and so on, that if people are used to do something, then they are really reluctant actually towards the change. But the change is always like, if some sort of a change is introduced, then the obvious question is that what is it in for me? Like, why I should take this change? Why this is important to me? And this is an important question to understand, because the same question is asked on so many different levels. It is asked on the political level. The prime minister usually asks that if somebody introduced to a prime minister the idea that Estonians should have a digital identity, which is the Estonian digital identity card. For example, this is mine. It has a chip on it, and with this chip, you can authenticate yourself into various systems, also to the private sector systems, and you can give digital signatures. And so if you're a prime minister, for example, and somebody like you have a techie in front of you talking really eagerly that, this is really cool chip and every Estonian should have it, and expensive as hell and government should pay for it and make it mandatory, then the prime minister is thinking, okay, why? What's in it for me? Like, what's the driver for me? And now it really depends on the person and the drivers of this person. And so every time if some sort of innovation is introduced or somebody's pushing for something, then definitely having understanding who are the peers, the decision makers, the beneficiaries, and so on. Like one should have answers to that why they should bother to go along, or what's the gain from it. Let's say there are some crucial elements which I need to talk about first before we go into any services or any which are important to know about if we are talking about e-Estonia. When Estonian is born, and then Estonian receives identity code. But what's interesting in case of Estonia is that the identity code is considered to be kind of your name in numbers, in a sense that it is unique, but this is not a secret number or anything. But this is important from engineering perspective, because now you have the unique parameter in each system. So you can start linking to data if there is a necessity. And this is the core which Estonian, let's say, e-government is built on, so that each person has also a digital identity.
Right.
And the identity card, together with certificates to authenticate yourself into systems and giving legally binding digital signatures, is part of it. Now, the second fold, which is really important, is that in each country there are ministries. Like, depending on the country structure and so on, you have, let's say, 15 ministries on average or something like this. You have Ministry of Interior, Justice, Finance, Social Affairs, and so on, so on. And usually each ministry is like a kingdom by itself. But what happens from the data perspective is that the data is in silos, in a sense that social affairs might not exchange information with the Ministry of Interior or Ministry of Education, and so on. And so they tend to bother citizens with questions. Like, if you go to Ministry of Social Affairs and you would like to receive some sort of a benefit from the ministry, then they start with a question like, what's your name? When did you born? Where do you live? Like, basics. And now when you go to another ministry, then they have the same stupid questions about you, and they all keep registers about this. So there is a lot of data duplication happening and so on. So in Estonia, the principle of once only was introduced. So the idea behind of it was that if government asks something from the citizen and records it into a register in some form, then the same question should not be asked from the citizen anymore. And all the other government institutions who need this data set should ask this from the other ministry or agency who has this data. And in order to enable it, if you remember, we were talking about the identity codes,
right? Because
you have the same identity code like cross-governmental and private sector systems, then you can start linking the data. And in early 2000s, solution called X-Road was introduced in Estonia, which is data interoperability layer, which is basically you have Ministry of Social Affairs information systems, and you have Ministry of Interior information systems. Then there is a governance logic, a technology layer, and operational layer, that how to put these information systems to exchange data between themselves. Oh. But the point is that the data itself is always owned by a citizen. So you as a citizen are the governor of your data. And you have always right to request to change or update the data, and also you have a means via citizen portal to monitor who's using your data. So you as a citizen are in control of the data. So there is a transparency built into by design, so that people would actually trust the system and the data. And I mean, for example, there are some registers in the registers in the information systems which are, how to say, legally binding only electronically. So that even if you have some sort of a paper proving opposite to that, what is in the digital register, then you can keep your papers to yourself, because only this, what is in the system, counts. This is making certain procedures and processes which are like paper-based legacy, burdensome and unnecessary. But this is a really long process, and it didn't happen in Estonia also overnight. Like, we have been developing this past 20 years roughly. so it's a gradual process. And I mean, like, having a digital identity, knowing that the government develops by itself because political will and different services are developed and so on. But as long as they exchange data between themselves, there is a possibility to enhance the seamlessness of the services, so that you would not be bothered with the same questions over and over again, because the machines can find the answers to those questions. And also what comes to that is that if you link data sets, of course it has to be done according to the legal rights, like if the information system has a right to make a question, it's not like that all the system are interacting with everybody. No. There is a really strict regulatory framework there, like who can ask, what can ask, why can be asked, how it is registered, logged, and so on. That's a full system. But my point is that if you start linking the databases and systems, then usually governments are struggling with data quality in the registers. That, I don't know, the name is misspelled, the address is outdated, different mistakes which are in the registries. But if you start to link the data, then those mistakes pop up really easily. And then processes can be started in order to correct the information. And it also enables to have a really good quality data by the end of the day, which enables you to make better decisions, because you know relatively accurately what is happening. And this leaves us to the next step of the Estonian government, which is developing at the moment seamless e-government services. The best digital service you can have is the service which you don't need to require. Like, I mean, in a sense that usually governments think in the A4 format, the paper format. Like, you go to some sort of a portal, you log in, I don't know, whatever means, with the ID card or something, and then you have a list of brackets which you need to fill in. But thanks to the X-Road interoperability layer which we have, we already managed to pre-fill quite a bit of this form which you would need to fill. This goes, for example, one of those early services which was this type, which was like pre-filled already in full, was, for example, Estonian tax portal. So that, I mean, doing my taxes in Estonia is, I don't know, 2-minute exercise for me.
Wow.
You just click and done. So in this sense, and this has been a benchmark, kind of, that why cannot we have more of those services? I will give you an example. This is really, I mean, many give the same example, but just lately I had the experience as myself. If baby is born, then there are automated services. So instead you applying for the benefit from the government starts, how to say, proactively providing you the service and just asking you, would you like to have it? Like, we hope that you don't mind that your kid will have a kindergarten place or something like this. So the point is that if the information system knows that there is a new Estonian with identity code, this is her mother, this is father, so on, then there are logics by let's say, life cycle that these and these and these services are applicable in this situation. And these services can be provided proactively, so that you don't need to even apply for them. Because by the law, you are entitled So why you should like be active in order to get what is entitled to you? So the point is that the best e-government service is the service which you don't have to deal with, which is happening behind the scenes automatically. You just see the benefits. You don't deal with the paperwork.
Yeah, so it's so super awesome here in India. We have a population of obviously like 1.3 billion people. So yes, there is an issue over there. We are making inroads. We are working on digitizing, but I think we are quite some time away from a complete digitization, because like I said, the population is a huge issue, right? 1.3 billion people. We still are dealing with papers and stuck up over there. We have biometric Aadhaar card, we've got PAN card, we've got passports, we've got birth certificates, and everywhere we go, we have to produce, your ID cards. So yes, there's a problem, but like there's something which is very nice. You said that, all these data is owned by the person. So there is transparency and trust built into the system. Unlike the world, people, we do talk about data being the new oil and how important it is to possibly own your data. But, the tech behemoths are monetizing and hoarding our data. I think governance, if there's a transparency and trust layer built in, I think everybody will come together and they'll see, you said, what is it in for me? When you have a model like that where it helps you and they understand, today we have around 47 million people in America who are jobless. In India, we have 120 million people who are jobless due to COVID. I don't know the numbers in Estonia. What is the impact of COVID in Estonia? What are the measures the Estonian government is taking to tackle and come back to normal?
Yes, COVID is a pandemic which is on unimaginable scale. In historical sense, yes, we have seen something like this. Is it the plague or something, Spanish flu or whatever? But nevertheless, in a modern era, it's the first time we are facing it, and now the question is that how to deal with it. There is something I would like to show you, which is interesting in a study. Maybe I can share my screen.
So in fact, I was on the e-estonia website. Yeah, I've made you a host. And it was saying how you guys are building an hackathon where you've created this crisis hackathon to tackle COVID-19. It's so cool when a country, a nation is proactive rather than sitting and waiting or replicating models of, lockdown, just get into the lockdown and not understanding the larger economical impact or a societal impact when you have people locked into their homes for months. How does one survive when there's no business? How does one survive when people don't have jobs?
There are roughly 60,000 something e-residents, if I'm not mistaken, and many companies established by the e-resident. And for the government, it was such a tremendous success story because, many governments want to have more companies, more taxpayers, and so on. And now you developed a way how to have more possible taxpayers, more vivid, lively economic sphere. And in a digital world, without actually need to build any physical infrastructure for that, with buildings for startups or something like this. And this idea was when the COVID struck, then there were some notions that talk about this already before, but a hackathon was created to come up with those really progressive ideas that which could help us to overcome to the COVID crisis and so on. So there were some some really cool cases. One was, if I'm not mistaken, was called Suvi or Sube or something like this, which was actually a chatbot. But it was developed out of the necessity that people started to have so many questions towards the public authorities and so on, that and in order to have a consolidated, well-written answers which would, guide people to do the right thing and so on, then it's better to work with the text. So the Suvi chatbot was developed so people could ask questions and get guidance which is accurate and so on. And this, by the way, this project now is living its own life in a sense that it has turned into something really exciting, which is upcoming. And I mean, it is going to be, I believe that the same startup kind of initiated to be concept that you can kind of add government as your friend in the social network, and you can ask and get your things done online just by chatting or interacting, because the government is moving towards the new means of communication, and not everything has to be like in this good old table form and so on. There were some previous, let's say, success cases which made the decision makers they accept the idea that, yes, let's open up, let's engage our community, let's see what great ideas they can come up with, and let's start to implement it, because if it's time of crisis, you need to act, because better now than never. and so on. But what I wanted to show, there is one interesting website, which is actually the European Foundation for Improvement of Living and Working Conditions.
Right.
And they have made a study, and this is about Europe and so on. And the question, which is at the frequency of working from home before the outbreak. And we see that in Europe, 27% of Europe, 27% of Estonians were already frequently working from home. So it means that when the COVID situation kicked in, then our people, or let's say solid part of the population, was already used to work from home or distance working. For example, we introduced the home working in Ministry of Justice already back in 2000, maybe 6-5 or something like this. So that at the end of the day, it doesn't especially when you do some paperwork. If you have meetings, you want to meet with your boss, with your colleagues and so on, you have a meeting room, you gather, you talk, you do your notes, you have your task, you go to your office. What I believe that what's going to happen after a while is that office as such will, in job advertisements, will become a benefit. Because from company perspective, if the work can be done from your home, if you can work from home, then why company should bother renting you an office? It's an expense and so on.
Perfect.
So, but if you now look at this map, you see that also many French were used to work from home and so on, and in Finland it was 70%. But if you look at the different question, which is that started to work from home as a result of the situation, which is after COVID or so. Right. If you click on it, then you see that this is the change, see the change in Finland.
Right.
There is a rise all over the Europe. And this is, of course, the COVID has been, it's unfortunate to say, but COVID has been really good driver to certain, let's say, features and functions of the digitalization to be implemented. Right. But the totally different question is that how much of innovation actually came from the situation, rather than it really helped the implementation and the rollout of already existing systems and solutions and ideas.
You rightfully pointed out, I guess in another couple of years, maybe work from office might not be something which would be lucrative or which could be good for the society, because a city like Bombay, we are an overpopulated city. The problems that we face over here obviously are pollutions, and there's cars on the road, back to back, and they honk, and it's quite crazy. If you travel from your work to your office space, it's normally like it'll take you between an hour to 2 hours because you're stuck in traffic, and so in a day you're losing somewhere around 3 or at times 4 hours of productive work that could have possibly gone if you would have worked from home. Besides that, since we are not on the road, we have cut down on the emission, the pollution, the sky is cleaner. We see the positivity of working from home. Now, not everybody is used to it. So that's the reason people are going bonkers, and because it suddenly hit that, we don't have an option but to work from home. But I see that in another few years, maybe virtual reality will create work for home, remote work in another level, like, because there's a company called eXp Reality. It's based out of America. It's a unicorn. It's $1 billion company. It's a real estate company. They don't have a physical workspace. They have a virtual workspace, and the team works from remotely through the use of virtual reality. So I believe that all these technologies, if we at least understand about them, what it could do, how it could transform your life and your businesses, I think the future will be very, very exciting. You mentioned about identity code, blockchain being the base on where your identity code is sitting on. Voting is another. Your I-voting in Estonia is being implemented on the blockchain model. I'm not so very sure. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. So do you see the future of governance, a big role of technology being a part of it, like a blockchain or artificial intelligence and things like that? You guys are already, using technology, but going into the future, what is the role of blockchain or artificial intelligence for governance?
E-estonia is I don't know all the services by heart, but how a blockchain is used in Estonia is not that it would be used so much as a data storage or registry or distributed registry solution or anything like this. That's not the case. Estonian governmental systems are using blockchain for data integrity. It means that you still have good old information systems, how they have been designed for the last decade or so. But the point is that blockchain is used for time stamping. So it means that, for example, if you take land registry, which is about the ownership rights of the property, then, and if one says that the land registry is digitally legally binding, and whatever paper you have, you can keep your papers yourself, this is what is in the system, this is what counts, then it makes the data integrity and data changes traceability really crucial. In a sense that if, for example, imagine a situation where somebody would change your home ownership to him, like not to you anymore, then you would be really mad, I would say, especially when it's legally binding. And even though it's done by the hacker and so on, and this is how the blockchain is used. Machine learning and different algorithms can change the way how people interact with the government. In Estonia, we have a concept called krat or bureaucrat. It also has hints of history in it, because krat in Estonian language is a mythical creature, which was a treasure carrier or parier, which was made out of household goods. And in order to make it live, you had to give a drop of blood to a devil. So the devil make it live, and it worked for you. It did like whatever you wanted.
Okay.
So the drop of blood is, in this instance, is the data. So the drop of blood is the data, and now the question is that what you give this pot to do. Like, what is the task of the pot? and or bureaucrat, as we call it. And the idea would be that the bureaucrat would be in the registries, in the public registries, and it would work for you, fight for your rights, kind of. Like if you buy the law, the bureaucrat knows the law, understands it, because it's law is like a code. It is in English, it is a code. So law is like a code, and it has rights and obligations, and the bots can understand them, and based on the code, it can act on your behalf if you have given the right to act on your behalf in the registers and get you the best deal out of it. So this is where I see that the public sector is heading, and actually Estonia has developed the concept and technological framework and strategy around it, which is publicly available. It is called KRAT initiative, and this is, I believe that this is the next step, where the machine learning definitely will step in as a vital technology in order to enable it. But it has many implications, but the mystification of AI taking over and so on, we are not there. We are still struggling with basics on this field. But there are definitely capabilities and technologies around which already enable us to provide better public services.
Lovely. Yeah. So yes, Margus, it was a pleasure talking to you. I guess we are in this journey, and we can use this tool as a friend to enhance us, augment us. What Elon Musk is doing is, building kernel, because he understands that the future is like a man-machine convergence. That's the reason he's building kernel. And I think Estonia is a model nation. What you people have done has created that blueprint for rest of the world to follow. The only thing that I believe needs to be possibly would need or is required from the rest of the world is an intention and a desire to make everybody inclusive and a better life for everyone. And it starts with digitization. And I think technology is a tool, and maybe the narrative is wrong that artificial intelligence taking over. It could just be a friend in a journey if we take the right steps and the right choice. My last question to you, Margus, what would be your pitch to the Indian government as a smart government advisor? We have various problems. As a country, we are a growing economy. If you had to give a pitch to the government to adopt digitization, what would be your pitch?
India is like, it's moving like a machine, that's it. But my pitch or point would be that the growing electorate of any politician is the new generation is digital native, and they have used Google, Facebook, whatever global services. And when they see that their government is still working with fax machines and so on, it's just a shame. And now the question is that if a politician wants to be elected in future and he or she doesn't react at the moment, then she will lose electorate. Because people will start demanding it, because it is expected. And this is a standard which people are expecting the government to deliver. It is like a medical services. It is something which needs to be there. Like the model of the service provision can be different, but everybody expects it to be there. So the point is that if you don't deal with this upcoming expectations now, then in future you will lose your electorate. And somebody will point at you and tell you during your campaign that you were the one who were not making decisions, and I'm now the one who's going to fix it. And he or she will get elected. So, so that's the driver for the politicians, I would say.
Lovely. Margus, thank you. Thank you for talking with us and sharing your insights about your journey, Estonia. We wish you the very best. And yes, I mean, I feel that we're living in excellent times. I mean, today with internet, anybody sitting in any part of the world who has the intent and desire and curiosity can build big businesses, because the internet has made everything possible. There is nothing which is impossible. Impossible is just a limitation which you set. And that's the reason this podcast, it's to nudge and nurture innovation. And I believe innovation, or building innovation, is the only way forward to come back to normal. This COVID-19 could just be a minor roadblock, from which I think we need to come together as a collective, which we have. We learn from this and understand what was lacking, what was the wrongs, and collectively make it a right. And I guess that's the future. And if we make the right choices, we will have a utopia. And on that note, thank you, Margus. Really pleasure speaking to you and learning about Estonia and how progressive you as a nation are. And I wish that the rest of the world learns from Estonia and copies the model, because it's possibly as simple as that. And to my listeners, if you like what you see and hear, please press the subscribe button. Thank you, Margus. Really appreciate you being part of Change I Am Possible podcast. Really appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.